What if the place meant to protect you in your most vulnerable years was actually letting you down? For millions of older adults, nursing homes promise safety, dignity, and care. But behind those clean hallways and friendly brochures, there's a different reality, one that too often goes unseen. If you or someone you love is considering long-term care, you need to know what really happens behind closed doors. Today, we're going to uncover the hidden truths about nursing homes, from ignored personal needs to emotional neglect and financial traps. Because being informed isn't just protection, it's power. Welcome to your next chapter, stronger, wiser, and still curious. 1. The illusion of personalized care. They say every resident is unique, but too often, the care feels copy-pasted. In many nursing homes, care plans are built from templates, not from conversations. Maria, 82, moved into a facility after a fall. She loved early morning walks and classical music, but her daily routine was dictated by staff schedules, not by her own rhythm. The result? She felt invisible in her own life. This lack of personalization doesn't just affect comfort, it affects health. When staff turnover is high, the problem gets worse. Imagine building trust with a caregiver, only to see a new face every other week. For residents, especially those with memory loss, this constant change can feel disorienting and even frightening. Worse yet, in many facilities, profit comes before people. To meet financial targets, corners get cut, fewer staff, rushed meals, shortened visits. And it's not just inconvenient, it's dangerous. A study by the Journal of Aging Studies found that facilities driven by profit are more likely to have safety violations. Real care is not about checking boxes. It's about knowing someone well enough to notice when something's off. That requires time, stability, and heart. 2. Hidden financial pitfalls. Signing a nursing home contract should bring peace of mind, but for many families, it's the start of financial confusion. Hidden deep in the fine print, you'll often find binding arbitration clauses. What does that mean? If your loved one suffers neglect or abuse, you may not be able to take legal action. Instead, you're forced into private arbitration, where outcomes tend to favor the facility, not the family. And then come the surprise charges, and extra $50 for a bedside fan, $200 for a wellness upgrade that was never explained. These unexpected fees pile up fast, leaving families overwhelmed and financially stretched. Even more troubling is the lack of financial freedom for the residents themselves. Many live on tiny personal stipends, sometimes as little as $30 a month. That means no lunch out, no new shoes, no birthday gifts for grandchildren. For people who've worked hard all their lives, this sudden dependence can feel humiliating. Imagine losing not just your home, but your right to decide how to spend a few dollars. This isn't just about money, it's about autonomy, respect, and dignity. 3. Erosion of dignity and autonomy. Imagine being told when to wake up, when to eat, when to bathe, every single day. That's the reality for many in long-term care, where rigid routines often replace personal freedom. Residents like George, 87, who always enjoyed sleeping in and reading the morning paper, now finds himself dressed and seated by 7:30 a.m., breakfast or not. And then there are the restraints. Sometimes they're physical belts or bars, other times it's medication given, under the label of calming. While these measures are often justified as safety precautions, they can actually serve the convenience of the staff, not the well-being of the resident. But dignity isn't just about freedom of movement. It's about being seen and heard. When caregivers ignore personal preferences, favorite foods, clothing choices, music tastes, the message is clear: you don't matter. Over time, this erodes identity and self-worth. Even more harmful is the emotional neglect. Without regular conversation, touch, or attention, residents may slip into isolation. Depression sets in. Cognitive decline accelerates. And all of it happens quietly, behind closed doors. Because losing autonomy isn't just a shift in routine, it's a slow fading of who you are. Prevalence of abuse and neglect. Not all wounds leave bruises. In nursing homes across the country, abuse and neglect are more common than we'd like to believe, and often go unreported. Why? Because many residents are afraid to speak up, or they can't. Some live with dementia, others fear retaliation, and when complaints do come, they're too often brushed aside. Consider Helen, 90. After weeks of complaining about pain in her hip, staff finally took her concerns seriously, only to discover a fracture that had gone untreated. This isn't rare. Neglect can lead to infections, malnutrition, untreated injuries, all of them avoidable. Emotional abuse can be just as devastating. Yelling, ignoring, belittling. These behaviors chip away at a person's sense of safety and self-worth. Over time, even the most confident resident can become withdrawn, confused, and afraid. And when families try to raise concerns, they're sometimes met with excuses or silence. The system is designed to protect itself, not always the people inside. If no one is watching, if no one is listening, then who stands up for the vulnerable? If you're still with us, comment the word dignity below, because that's what this is really about. And if this message matters to you, subscribe to our channel. More stories like this are coming. 5. Systemic issues exacerbated by the pandemic. When COVID-19 swept through nursing homes, it didn't create problems, it revealed them. Suddenly, the cracks in the system became canyons. Understaffing turned into chaos. Weak infection control became a death sentence. Emergency plans? Often just paper. For residents, the virus wasn't the only threat. Isolation hit just as hard. Doors closed, visitors banned, birthdays passed in silence. Emily, 85, didn't understand why her daughter stopped visiting. No one explained. Her appetite dropped. She stopped speaking as much. By the time restrictions eased, she was no longer the same. These stories aren't isolated. They're echoes of a deeper problem, a system that reacted instead of preparing. And even after all the loss, over 200,000 lives in long-term care facilities during the pandemic, meaningful reform has been slow, hesitant, and inconsistent. We say, never again, but without change in regulation, oversight, and staffing. Models, what's to stop it from happening again? 6. Discrimination and inequity in care. Care should be universal, but for many, it's not. LGBTQ+ residents often face a painful choice: hide who they are or risk discrimination. Some go back into the closet after decades of living openly, just to feel safe around staff or fellow residents. And it's not just about identity, it's about geography and resources. Facilities in low-income or minority communities often have fewer staff, outdated equipment, and lower hygiene standards. Maria, who lives in a rural facility, says hot water runs out by mid-morning. Staff rotate so frequently, she doesn't know who's giving her medication. Language and culture also play a role. When residents and caregivers can't communicate clearly, small misunderstandings can lead to serious mistakes, like missed medication, misdiagnosis, or emotional alienation. Even meals can become a source of distress when cultural foods are unavailable or misunderstood. Dignity doesn't stop at care routines. It means being respected for who you are, your culture, your past, your identity. When that's denied, the harm is personal and profound. This chapter may be closing, but your journey is just beginning, stronger, wiser, and more alive than ever. A nursing home should be a place of peace, not fear, of connection, not silence. But for that to happen, we must first see the truth. Not just the polished brochures, but the real experiences behind closed doors. Whether you're planning your own future or looking out for someone you love, remember this: you have the right to ask questions, to demand better, and to choose care that honors not just safety, but dignity. Because aging should never mean invisibility. It should be a chapter, filled with comfort, respect, and yes, joy. So tell us, which part of this story resonated most with you? Leave a comment below. Your voice matters more than you think. And if this video opened your eyes, share it with someone who needs to see it. Like, subscribe, and help us build a future where every older adult is treated with the care they truly deserve.